What can I do if I'm being sexually abused by my father or brother? As a mother, my daughter was raped by her father. How should I handle this? Okay. It's been there since, but I just thought, okay, when do I bring? Because there's some more like weightier ones. I mean, every question is important. Every question is important. We're grouping them, so you may not hear your question live, but your question may, if it's similar to another person's question, then we've already treated it. What do I do if I'm being sexually abused by my father or brother? Let me try out, and then we'll have contributions. You might have, I don't know, Elishama, you might want to chip in something, no? Okay, but this is a young girl now, being sexually abused by her father or brother. First of all, I think you need to speak out, not keep quiet about it. Because out of fear, you'll be afraid to talk about it. And you probably, because you didn't have to come out to ask the question, it was safe. And that's why we said, write your questions, because many of us may be too shy or ashamed to come out and ask certain questions. Because I know some of us are even, for some young people here, your parents are around. Maybe your mom brought you and she's hanging around somewhere or something. This person needs to speak out. Who does she tell? If she's been abused by her brother or her father, she needs to tell her mother. First of all, I think, as painful as, it will be. When I was speaking the other time, I said, out of fear, young people don't talk about these things that they're struggling with. And a lot of people live in denial, because I once had a case of a young lady that was being abused by her mother's brother, her uncle, and she could not tell her mother. And when she told her mother was like, she didn't want the rest of the family to know, because it's like a stigma. That happened to Joyce Meyer. Her mother knew that her father was abusing her, and she didn't do anything about it because, of course, she was too ashamed. So she pretended as if she didn't see. So that worsened the situation. You need to tell your mother, and I believe that the mother will then get proper help, of course, by praying, get proper counseling from the church, the pastor, or from people like Praise, who are experts. They are Christian psychologists. They have the depth of information on how to tackle these things, because some things are not just, okay, well, we've prayed about it and that's all. What can you practically do about it? I think the prayer will lead you to someone who actually has what to do. You start out from that end. If your mother does not believe you, then you have to take it to the next level. Maybe your pastor, your pastor's wife, your teacher, if you're in the teens church, just that person that you know would believe you, a responsible person, someone you are accountable to. Somebody has to believe you, because then you can begin to get help. But it says here, as a mother, my daughter was raped by her father. How should I handle this? So this is now for the mother whose child has now reported. Maybe you caught them in the act, or she reported. Now you know. So what do you now do as a mother in this situation? And these things, they're happening. They're happening. They're happening. Even among Christians. What does the mother... I just want to give it a try, because we really need... I'm depending on God. He's the fountain of wisdom here. What should she do? First of all, I think, if you have a contrary opinion, give yours, and let's just, I don't have all the answers, but I think that the woman should pray, and then she should confront her husband. Because she said, as a mother, my daughter was raped by her father. That's assuming that the father is your husband. You both are the parents of the child. And you have to, if the daughter is really sure, and you're sure she's sure, why would she lie anyway? Then you have to confront the father. You have to ask him about it. That's the starting point. If he admits, then you can begin to get help together. Then you need to see a Christian counselor, a psychologist, people who are trained in these things, to begin to get help. You have to begin to look for answers from the Word of God. If he admits, then he most likely would open up that he actually has a problem. The problem must be really bad. Because if he has a problem with the opposite sex or girls or women, your daughter, so it's deep. It's deep and it's not light at all. It could cost the woman her marriage. Because I know that when you are having, when things like this happen, one of the remedies is to move the victim out of the zone of the pressure. Even in ordinary everyday peer pressure, you're in class, someone sits next to you, is always troubling you, whether you're of the same sex or not, the person always disturbs you. The first thing is to ask that your seat be moved from around that person. You have to move away from the source of temptation. But because it's a family situation, they want to cover it. She might wonder, what would I tell people? What will be the reason that I'm saying my daughter should go and live with grandma? But if you want to think about what will people say, then you won't get any form of help. So, if this woman would not move out with her daughter, then the daughter will have to move out, or someone will have to move because the father and the daughter cannot live in the same house. They can't. He can't. Normally, you should be able to leave your daughter with her father, but this calls for urgent and deep solutions.
I have a question to add.
Question?
I have a question to add to that. How can, please be as open-minded about this question as possible. How can a mother, or what would lead to a point where a married man living with his wife sleep with the daughter? Please be as open-minded. You know why? Every question is based on an assumption. What I think we should do is to try to find who this person is and ask the person. For only God knows where the catalyst lies. It could be with the man, it could be with the daughter, it could be with the wife. We can only offer assumed answers. So I'm going to strongly suggest that whoever wrote that question should try and get across to Pastor Nike, please. In fact, both questions. Because one of the things I experienced has taught me is that most times when people send in questions, there are certain things that they may deliberately leave out. Deliberately leave out. And whoever is answering will now be boxed into a corner as to make certain assumptions that may not necessarily have a bearing. Because at times I may ask a question in a particular way so that I will get an answer that will justify my actions. So I'm going to strongly suggest that whatever answer you are getting here, especially for these two questions, please, I beg you, try and get across to Pastor Nike. You still need to say certain things.
You need
please.
to dig deeper. Okay.
This year I had cause to counsel with a woman. She has 4 children and her last is about 16. She said to me that over the years, she always had a funny feeling about her husband and her daughter. She said once she caught him, this is her husband now, caught him removing her duvet off of her body, and that she walked into the room at that time and said, "Why are you removing the cloth this sleeping child has covered herself with?" And he said, "Oh, she didn't cover herself well, so I was adjusting the cloth." And after a while, her daughter ran away, and we prayed for, maybe about 2 months before her daughter got in touch with her. Now, the father is very violent towards the daughter. If other people do something, they get away with it. But if this girl does anything, he beats her black and blue. So everybody thought she ran away because her father is very violent towards her. And a few days before she ran away, he had beaten her up again, and the girl ran away. Eventually, when she got in touch with her mother, she said that her father had been asking her to sleep with her for a long time, and that is why she ran away. Now, because the woman doesn't have enough funds to survive on her own financially with the other children, she still stayed in the house, but she ensured that child didn't come home. So it got to a stage where she said, "I would just ask him, that, oh, our daughter says she wants to come home. And you know what the man said? He said, tell her the reason she left has not left this house. Imagining that the girl hadn't told her mother, imagining that everyone would still think it's because he beats her anytime she's... So we really do identify that these things happen a lot. I also happen to know of another lady whose daughter was under 10, and she had to be rescued by one of the government agencies because the girl's father was molesting the young child. So yes, we know it happens. And as Pastor Nika said, the first thing is to make that child escape, and just get out of that situation. And then, of course, to get help.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
We have some contributions over here.
Thank God for this forum, for the different opinions about this particular issue. First and foremost, an abuse is an abuse. And before God and before man, it is wrong. Whichever way it is being looked at, whether the child is the one that is the motivator or the father. But there are some things that are not acceptable before God and before man. A father is not supposed to have sex with a daughter. So it is not this, it cannot be justified that it is the daughter that tempted him or vice versa. But bottom line, when things like this happen in a family, it's always a cult issue. It becomes a cult. Nobody wants to talk out. You know, the family, either the father or the mother, anyway, they will be advised that it should be in the family and everybody should keep quiet. And you find out that at the end of the day, it's still that same victim that is suffering, that will be traumatized, and that person can just be messed up for life. And there's just one thing that is responsible for that situation. It is demonically motivated. And the only way it can be resolved is through prayers. And thank God that is why we are here. So if anything like that is happening in a family, in a home, you know, that question came from here. So the mother is here, that child is here. The solution is you must address the spiritual issue. Because that man is not in his right senses. He's being motivated from the pit of hell. So the mother is responsible after counseling the daughter and praying for that child to be healed by the Lord, to take authority over that spirit that is responsible for that activity in that household. Then in the physical, she has to think of the well-being of that child. If she has to move away temporarily with her child, you know, from that home, don't think about that man, because that man is not thinking of that child. Simple. That's if I will cancel it. For the meantime, for the sanity of that child, get away from that environment. Receive healing for your daughter. Take authority over the situation and let God come in. Then secondly, I know a family. Thank God for that. I know a family that the father, their last child, the daughter that child has belongs to the father. Are you listening to me? If somebody had to come and tell me that case, and the mother is still living in that house, telling everybody that is her grandchild, it is crazy. By the time I got to hear this, I had to enter into through counseling. I wanted to find out, and the man actually confessed to the wife that he belongs to a cult, and they asked him to sleep with a virgin. And the only virgin he had around him was his daughter. And that woman is still living in that house, telling everybody that cares to listen that child is one of the daughters. In fact, it became a cult thing. They had to beg one of the elder daughters to just go away for a while. And when that one went away, and after a while, they brought in that little baby, and they were making people to believe that child belongs to that elder. I mean, it is crazy what Satan is doing in homes. But thank God for this forum. It has to stop. So nobody that is part of this gathering should allow that to happen in their household. If you are a child, a teenager here, and your brother is molesting you, your father is molesting you, speak out. Do not hold it back. If you cannot speak out to your mother or to a family member, thank God for Pastor Nike that has this sort of forum. Go tell her secretly. Then if there is a mother that such a thing is happening, think of the future of that child and begin to take authority, but immediately at the same time take a physical step by moving that child and yourself away from that environment till healing comes in. That is my contribution.
Please, Evangelist Alicia must stand up for recognition. Wave your hand. So they can come to you too, eh? Yes, because, yeah, I agree with her. We have to approach it from a spiritual point of view and a physical point of view. And like Emmanuel said, we can't, there are still some more, it just has to be a one-on-one counseling that will lead to prayers, deliverance, and things like that. Because really, the devil is the one behind it. Okay, you have a question, something on this.
Praise the Lord. Pastor Nicky, I think the first thing that came to my mind when you were reading the question is that I just perceived that there are a lot of young people here. Because you see, when we talk about sexual abuse, it's not something that can be cured. The victims need healing. So I just hope that you would be able to pray for so many young people who've been sexually abused. Because it's not, we just heard about a father that was abusing the daughter, but we also have some people who are also abusing some other people, okay, who are not like because statistics, the latest statistics we have as of 2007 says that 7 out of every 10 young girls before the age of 18 have been sexually abused. You know, and the 3 that you can say were not sexually abused, it's actually, it goes further to say that 2 out of the 3 can't actually remember if they were sexually abused or not. And I know that we have a lot of young people, so I'm sure some of them are wondering, what is sexual abuse? Now, sexual abuse is a situation where we call them the predator, a major, okay, takes advantage of a minor to derive sexual satisfaction. There are 2 ways you look at sexual abuse. I'm saying this for the benefit of the teenagers, okay. You can have sexual abuse by interaction. That is when you're actually touched. And when you're talking about the touch, you have what we call the good touch, you have the bad touch, then you have the confusing touch. Now, the good touch is when somebody touches you in a way that, well, you don't feel funny. Maybe a handshake, that's a good touch. Now, a confusing touch is some guys come to you and a guy wants to hug you, and it's like almost like he has hugged you the first time, second time he's coming to hug you. You know, it leaves young minds wondering, what's this guy up to? They are confused, so they can't actually say whether it's an abusive situation or not. Then you have the bad touch. That's when